Hey guys, I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you guys are listening, subscribing, and commenting. I appreciate the support. And if you're interested in supporting me further, you can do that by going to my Patreon or Ko-fi link. They're both in the description below. In this video, I want to speak to you guys about social eating and social anxiety. I don't know if this is necessarily an INFJ thing, although I have noticed a bunch of you guys actually comment on this particular thing that you have social anxiety or while you are social eating. And so for me specifically, it was a really big deal, and I've spoken a couple of times about it briefly in other videos, but I wanted to do a specific video just about social eating. And as I said, I used to have a major issue with this when I was in my tweens and my teens. So perhaps from the time I was like 10 or 11 to the time I would say 18, 19, maybe even 21. So there was a big chunk of my life, perhaps maybe even 10 years, where I had a really hard time. As I grew older, it became easier and easier. When I first got into this, when I first started realizing that I had social anxiety while I was outside and eating, I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was normal. I thought that everyone was like this. And that's another one, I think one of the things that I'm really grateful for with the internet is that for a lot of people nowadays, when you have these things where you're like, oh, I really don't like eating in front of people, or I have anxiety eating in public, what you can do is go online and be like, all right, is this a common thing? Is this normal? Do a lot of people experience it, or is it just me? And instantaneously you'll get a message, or you'll see messages from 1,000 people saying exactly the same thing. Oh yeah, I experienced it as well. I can't eat in public, or I can't eat in front of other people, things like that. And almost instantaneously you feel a sense of relief. You feel, wow, okay, cool, I'm not crazy. It's not just me. A lot of people experience it. It's okay. I just have to deal with it, or I can look at how other people dealt with it and learn from them and then improve myself or apply it to my own life. And so I find that the internet has actually really made a lot of our lives much easier in that regard. I know a lot of people lament about the fact that it's disconnected us from other people, and there are a lot of negatives to it. But for me, from my perspective, if I had only had the internet when I was younger, if I had only had this resource where I could have just gone online and been like, okay, so when I go outside with my family or with friends or whoever, and if people are asking me to eat some food, I'm almost unable to do it. It's impossible for me to eat in public in front of other people, because not only do I feel like other people are judging me that I'm eating too much, or I'm so fat, or judging me in the way that I eat. And even if I did end up eating something, the sound of my chewing would be so loud in my head that I would imagine that the entire world can hear me eating. And that anxiety would just overwhelm me, and a lot of times I would just avoid eating in public, which is a little bit difficult sometimes, because what happened is that I would end up skipping meals. Because what I was doing is I was going out with family or friends, and I was going for a dinner perhaps with them or with my friends or family. And I would be there, and everyone around me would be sitting and eating, and I would barely be able to take a bite. I would literally have to go off into the corner and hide myself from them, because I was so anxious about the idea of even eating in front of them. And it didn't matter who they were. It was all right for me to eat in front of my family at home. Even that was not that great. I mean, I would still feel anxiety, but I knew they were my family, and I had to eat at home, otherwise I would never eat. And so I ate at home. But as soon as it came to strangers, if I was in front of anyone besides my siblings and my parents, it was almost an impossibility for me to eat. It didn't matter what the food was. Obviously, crunchier foods were harder than normal food, so rice was okay sometimes. But if it was chips or a crunchy carrot, I would not be able to do it at all, because the sound of my eating would overwhelm me. I would think to myself, everyone can hear me eating, and everyone must think I'm so gross and disgusting, and they must be judging me for being such a slob or being such a glutton, and I can't believe this, I'm so ashamed. And so a lot of anxiety and shameful feelings and thoughts would come up for this simple act of eating. Now, you're probably sitting there, if you haven't experienced this, and thinking, wow, what why are you making such a big deal out of this? It doesn't seem like such a big deal. And to me now, as I'm sitting here and I eat a lot of food in front of strangers all the time without any compunction, without any shame, without any embarrassment now, even now, me looking back at that person who wasn't able to eat in front of all those people, I would think to myself, wow, why was I like that? Why did it affect me so much? I can't understand it. But at that moment in time, I remember the anxiety and the shame and the embarrassment that would crop up in me at even the thought of eating in front of someone else. I had to really prepare myself, and eventually I learned that if I was going to go out in front of someone else and had to eat in front of them, I wouldn't be able to do it, so I had to make sure that I ate beforehand. And a lot of times I'd be going out to a dinner, but I'd be eating beforehand because I knew I wouldn't be able to eat in front of them. I wouldn't be able to eat enough at all, at least. I would have a couple of bites here and there, but I'd be too embarrassed to eat completely. And so I had to make sure that I ate beforehand, otherwise I wouldn't be able to eat, and then I would have skipped a meal, and that's obviously not good for you either. And so I didn't want to get hangry, I didn't want to get a hunger headache, and I ended up getting them a lot because I would be skipping meals because of this anxiety. And this happened, at school events. I'd be at school at a school trip, and surrounded by friends, and they were all enjoying the food, and we'd do potlucks, and I just wished to myself, in those moments in time, I'd be like, oh, I wish I could just eat without feeling so much anxiety. I wish I could just do it. I wish I could just not think about it, and I wish I could just enjoy all this delicious food with all of these amazing people around me. And because food is a major part of a lot of social events, it ended up being that I would avoid social events because I didn't want to go through the hassle of explaining why I'm not eating. And I would hide from a lot of social events, or I'd hide in the bathroom, or I would pretend like I was doing something else while people were eating. So once they were done eating, then I could go back and hang out with them, because then the whole problem of me not eating wouldn't show up. Of course, now I look back upon it and I'm like thinking to myself, wow, there was so much drama that went into it, so much anxiety, so much stuff that I wish I had had someone to talk to about it. As I said, if I had the internet, that would have been so useful, because I could go online and be like, oh, this is just social anxiety and it's okay. A lot of people experience it, and this is what you do about it. But at that point in time, I had no one to talk to about this. In fact, I used to think that I was the only person on this planet to experience this, because everyone else I knew, could eat in public without any issues. They ate with gusto, and they would eat and eat and eat and not feel embarrassed. And I would think to myself, why do I feel like this? I was very skinny, and I didn't have to worry about being portrayed as a glutton. There were a lot of people much bigger than me that ate with gusto and didn't feel embarrassed by it. So why me particularly? Why did I do this to myself? There were a lot of explanations for it, obviously, that I don't want to talk about in this video. But I do want to say that if you are in this sort of situation right now with social anxiety, particularly related to eating, I assure you that this is something that, if you are going through it right now, as you get older, it will get easier. I noticed for myself, I didn't really do anything much about it. I would just, as I said, avoid social events, or I would eat beforehand at home. But eventually, all of a sudden, it was fine. And I got up one day, I don't know how it was, and one day I realized that it wasn't a big deal anymore. I could eat in public, and I wasn't feeling embarrassed about it. A lot of it actually had to do with my journey of self-love and yoga and meditation and all that stuff, of course. But as you get older, you realize that no one is thinking about you, right? I think a lot of social anxiety comes from the fact that you think everyone is thinking about you. As you get older, you realize no one is thinking about you except for yourself. And even you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about other people, maybe. So this self-consciousness, this self-involvement, this thing where you have that you think you're the center of the world disappears as you get older, and you realize no one's thinking about you, no one cares about you in a positive way. No one is sitting there thinking, oh my god, she eats a lot. They're just in their own mood, their own head. They're thinking about their own problems, their own situations. They're thinking about their own meal. They're not focusing on you, unless you make it a big deal, unless you're like, oh my god, look at me, how much I'm eating. And then they're like, oh yeah, you're eating a lot today. But in general, people don't care. People don't have the mental space or capacity to think about you. They have other things to think about. Perhaps they're breaking up with their partner, or they're having financial issues, or they're having some stuff to do with their work. They're involved in their own lives. They don't really care that much about you. And as time goes on, you will realize this fact as well. If you're younger or older, wherever you are in this point in time, if you do experience social eating or social anxiety while eating, it mostly disappears as you get older. But a lot of it I've noticed has to do with the fact that there is this societal pressure on women specifically that we need to be skinny. And I know I experienced this a lot, not because my mother did it deliberately, but because she wanted me to be thin, beautiful, because she wanted me to be attractive, because she wanted me to get a proper mate, because she wanted to be able to boast to other people about me. So a lot of times there was a lot of conversations with my family about being skinny. And of course, if you're eating a lot, you're not being skinny. Although I don't know why a 10 or 11-year-old would have to worry about that, but that's the thing about this world we live in. Even at 10 or 11, I was already under so much pressure to be skinny, to be thin, to not eat too much, to maintain a certain figure, to be beautiful, to follow the mandates of society, the way women are supposed to look, to be skinny, to be tall, to be fair, to have a lot of long, beautiful locks of hair, etc. All these things that we're told that we need to be. And even at 10, 11, I was already feeling that. And I think I know a lot of the social anxiety with related to eating came up because of that. It came up because of the pressure that society and our parents and our family and friends put on us to be skinny, to be thin, to be that person that can walk in front of others and be proud of their bodies, things like that. Now, I don't know where your social anxiety related to eating comes from, but for me, it was mainly to do with that. And the reason I wanted to share this with you guys is because I wanted to tell you guys that now I eat, as I said, a lot of food in front of people without feeling any embarrassment. And it's really funny because people have actually commented to me about this. They're like, well, you eat a lot. And instead of feeling that shame that I would feel previously when I was younger about, oh my God, I eat a lot, I must be a fatty or whatever that stuff comes up. Nowadays, I'm like, yeah, I eat a lot. I love food. And I notice a big difference in the way I deal with it and the way I'm able to be comfortable with food and with my body and in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. I do have days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so fat. Mostly to do with PMS. But in general, I know there's a big difference. And I have to admit that yoga and meditation, especially yoga though, has been pivotal for this. And any kind of body movement exercise which allows you to love your body and to really appreciate your body and your muscles and everything about your body as it is extremely important if you want to learn to avoid the stigma of social eating. So again, I'm not an expert on this, but I do want to assure you that it does get better if you are experiencing it right now. And if I can get over it, and I used to be really, really mired in the depths of it, if I can get over it, you can definitely get over it. All right. So obviously, if you have any questions about this, please comment below and I will answer any questions you have. If you do experience social anxiety while eating, let me know what you've done or what you're doing in order to alleviate it. And if you guys are interested in supporting me further, obviously you can do that by going to my Ko-fi link. The link is in the description below. Again, thank you so much, and I shall see you guys the next time around. Bye for now.